T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T. Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Can't wait for you to meet Miss T. She is the T in T.
And welcome back to Sweet Tea Time. And I have something really cool for you today. And I think this is one of those childlike, not childish, but childlike things that adults have a tendency to overlook, neglect the development of, and even forget about. And that thing is your imagination. Now, give me a minute to kind of plow through this with you because it's really important that you not only realize that your imagination is probably one of the greatest tools, one of the greatest assets you have to the expression of your success. It's a muscle. So the more you work it, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the quicker you can have the things in tangible form that you see in your dreams. And so I want to get into this imagination thing. Really, truly, it's a weapon. And I recall, quite vividly actually, growing up as a kid, I've shared the story many, 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 many times. It was a very difficult, challenging, tumultuous upbringing in atmospheres, predatorial atmospheres where just not great things happened to me as a child. Things that shouldn't happen to children happened to me, my siblings, as we were younger and growing up in some really tough communities. And one of the things that I believe, and hindsight is always clear, it's always 2020. In looking back on things, I realized that had I not had such a vivid, strong imagination that often took me to other worlds and other places and other spaces, if I would have lived in the reality of the day-to-dayness of my life, I don't know that I would have survived it all that well. And so I attribute a great deal of the trajectory and the expression and the outcomes of my life to the fact that I have a very strong imagination. And I believe, if you can't see the thing, you can't have the thing. You can never be the thing. You can only go as far as you can see. And I'm not saying see with your natural eyes, like with these two, things. I'm talking about what you see in your imagination, or what the strength of your spirit suggests as your internal world. If you can't see yourself doing things, being things, achieving things there first, it doesn't often manifest itself exteriorly where you can touch it or experience it. And so the importance of developing a very strong imagination as your weapon, as your muscle, as your tool, I think it's critical going forward. And, we live in a time, we live in a day where things are pretty gnarly. Like we have things that are happening, things that are challenging our normal way of life. There's so much interruption in the way we're being governed, in the way that, business is being conducted. There's constant change. And some of it is like not so great change, but we're constantly being challenged in the world we can see, which I think requires us to be more intentional about, building in our imagination the worlds that we want to see. And a great deal of my companies that I have and what they do in the communities that we serve, it all was birthed from my imagination through experiences as well, but mainly what I saw inside that's now presenting itself outside. So let me give you a few things that you can try. And I'm only saying try because some people I give advice to, and it sounds great, but they don't try to put it in motion in their lives. And so I'm saying that you can try. Hopefully, this will help you develop a stronger muscle called imagination so that you can start seeing bigger, dreaming bigger, stretching wider, going deeper, and developing really, truly the life and the lifestyle that you dream about. Not what I dream about, what you dream about. So one of the first things I do to practice the strengthening of my imagination is I get alone with myself. The quiet time is super, super critical. If you are not spending dedicated, uninterrupted time alone in an atmosphere that's conducive for you to just concentrate on seeing, thinking, being, dreaming interiorly, then this is going to be a very hard assignment for you. You have to carve out time. Value yourself, value your dreams, love yourself, love the self that you're going to become, and give yourself the gift of this moment every day if you can do it. Just to get alone with yourself and quiet with yourself so you can get into your imagination and see. That's one of the things I do. Another thing that I do is I write everything down. Sometimes throughout the course of the day, I learned, from a mentor of mine that people get multi-million dollar ideas, at least one every day. The reason that they don't actually present themselves is because they don't even write them down. And so throughout the day, I make sure that when I get a download or when I get an idea, first things first is I write it down. But the second thing I do after I write it down is I keep looking at it and I keep adding things to it. And I sit with myself and I sit with the idea and I not only build a relationship with the idea, but I start to see the thing unfolding in my imagination. And I find that, if this is something that you're starting, if it's something that you've let, grow atrophy and it's not very strong, you're going to have to maybe start by igniting it. Like you have to use lighter fluid in order to get the fire burning again. And one of the ways, and I'm giving you a third one of the ways you do that is get into somebody else's imagination experience. And how I did that as a kid, how I still do that as an adult is I read books. I read books that take me all over the world. And sometimes it's books that are designed for children. Don't get mad at me, but I've been reading the Harry Potter books. I like them. I read them all like in one day when they first came out. Sure did. Thick books just like that. Why? Because it took me someplace other than my current set of circumstances. Now, I'm not saying deny where you're at. I'm saying build where you want to go. Use the muscle of imagination to build where you want to go. And so step number 3, if you can't activate this thing, in a robust way, slip into somebody else's imagination experience so that it'll help you kind of start the process of growing your own. And again, I do that by reading books. And some days I don't want to be in my office, but I can't pack a bag and go to a beach. But I can read a book and get to a beach. So I'm just trying to help you with that. The fourth thing is once you start to experience the strength of imagination, you'll start to notice the world around you will start to change. Your vernacular about a situation or a goal will start to change. I started, imagining first this. I just bought, 4 square blocks and it houses 4 buildings that make up 44,000 square feet. Before I actually physically had this building that I call my headquarters in Northern California, I imagined it 10 years prior. And then because I couldn't find anything that looked like that, I had to imagine what each room and the colors. And really, truly, I didn't imagine the physical structure as much as I imagined the experience that the people would have as they would come into the building, as they would go into the classes, as they would navigate the space. And so I lived in that imagination of the building, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And over the course of 10 years, it grew to the place that it could no longer just exist in my imagination. It had to come out and present itself to the world. And so again, it took 10 years to grow this thing, but I kept going to the thing. In fact, here's the book that I made. I made this book in 2014 when I was trying to figure it out. 2015, it was cemented that I will have a building where I can serve people and teach people and build a team and have all the wonderful things. But because I couldn't find anything on the planet that it modeled, I had to build the model. But first I built it here, then I did something tangible here. And this is what I would reference for years. I had this made. I would reference this for over 10 years. And then finally, when the building presented itself, I knew that this was my building and I knew I had to buy it, but that's only because I used the muscle of imagination to activate the entire process first. There are some things, however, that will work against the muscle of your imagination producing what it's created to produce in your life. And one of those major things is the contaminant called fear. Now, if fear gets into your imagination muscle is still working no matter what. It's still working no matter. That's why you want to constantly feed it with hope, constantly feed it with love, constantly fuel and feed it with positive things, good things. Because if you don't and you let the contaminant called fear get in there, the muscle will work how the muscle works. So instead of you producing something great, you'll start to produce some not so great outcomes. And what fear, if it gets into your imagination, you already do this. You'll start to imagine the worst. You'll start to imagine lack. You'll start to imagine not having enough. You'll start to imagine the worst possible outcomes instead of the best possible outcomes. So one of the things that fear will produce if it's allowed to contaminate your imagination, and this is an indicator for you so you know when it's happening, is you'll start to worry. When you start to feel worry, when you start to feel doubt, when you start to feel anxiety, examine the landscape of your imagination. What got in there that made you feel afraid? And some of those things that in the past for me, that's been, what if I fail? Like the fear of failure getting into, my imagination, that thing has messed me up more times than I can count. It's caused me to not take steps I'm supposed to take in this timing that I'm supposed to take it. It's caused me to do deals with people that are bad deals. It's caused me to do some things that, didn't work for my benefit or the benefit of others because I was afraid, what if I don't do it? What if I mess up? What if I blow it? What if I blow it publicly and everybody sees me? So again, the muscle still works how the muscle works, but you have to be mindful of what is being introduced into it that could possibly contaminate it. And so it's really your job to protect your imagination. So rewind, if you will. I said in the top of this that your imagination, it's a childlike thing. And if you go back or if you work with children, which I work with a ton, if you study them, they don't have a lot that says what they can't do. In fact, they live from a place of, I can do this, I can fly, I can ride purple unicorns with horns, and we're going to ride over rainbows and eat Skittles from them. Like they think, live, know, believe, see, imagine that way. And it's only through the course of life that starts to diminish unless you foster it, unless you fuel it, unless you practice the strength of it. Okay, I'll close with this. You have what you want because you have what you want. And until you use the muscle of imagination, which will change the desire of what you want to maybe something bigger, something better, maybe until you clear out anything that is contaminating this landscape that causes you to see the thing before the thing becomes. Maybe until you take the time to clear that out, you won't be able to see what's more, what's best. And that's the only goal that I have with doing this particular podcast and doing the series of podcasts that I do, is that you have the absolute best that this world has to offer you and that you have to offer yourself. So take the time, dream bigger, imagine bigger, flex that muscle, and then get the evidence of your interior work exteriorly, and then build on that, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. So thank you for tuning in today. As usual, like something, share something, comment on something, subscribe something, all the things, do all the things, just because I think, it's nice to know that you're out there. It's nice to know that this is helping you, and it's nice to know that this is helping people that you know and love and care about. And that's the only goal in doing all of this. So thank you, and imagine big, and I will see you again really soon.